Before you watch this, make sure you're alone, because what you're about to see are real horror stories that were never meant to be found. These are the most terrifying, unexplained, and disturbing encounters caught on camera, from abandoned places to things that should not exist. And trust me, you won't make it through all 20 minutes without looking over your shoulder. So turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and let's begin. If you dare. I didn't realize my apartment had a 13th door until it started trying to replace me. And the worst part? It only appears after 12:40 a.m. I moved into an older apartment complex just outside Albany, New York. Nothing special. 3 floors. Long carpeted hallways. Identical beige doors. Lighting that always feels slightly too dim, like the bulbs are tired. The kind of building where sounds travel wrong at night. You hear footsteps that don't belong to anyone. My unit sits at the very end of the 3rd floor, apartment 312. And during my first week living there, I noticed something oddly specific. There were exactly 12 doors between the elevator and my apartment. I know that sounds random, but while unpacking, I kept locking myself out and walking the hallway over and over. So I counted. Every time. 1, 2, 3, 12. Always 12. Perfectly consistent. Until last Thursday. I got home from work around 12:40 a.m. The building felt wrong. Not quiet. Empty. Even the vending machines downstairs weren't humming. When the elevator opened, I immediately felt it. The hallway looked longer. Not dramatically. Just enough for your brain to hesitate. I told myself I was tired and started walking. 1 door. 2. 3. Normal. But then I passed 12. And my apartment wasn't there. 13. 14. 15. I stopped walking. My door should have been right in front of me. Instead, the hallway kept going. Same carpet. Same lights. Same walls. Just more of it. I turned around. The elevator was gone. Behind me was only more hallway stretching endlessly in the opposite direction. That was the moment fear actually started. Not panic. Just that deep biological warning your brain gives when reality breaks its own rules. I walked faster. The ceiling lights buzzed overhead. Each footstep echoed too long. Like the hallway was bigger than the building could physically contain. Then I noticed the doors. Every single one said 312. My apartment number. Again. And again. And again. Same brass numbers. Same scratches near the handle. My door. Repeated endlessly. I laughed. A nervous, stupid laugh. Okay, not funny. My voice didn't echo. It just disappeared. Like the hallway absorbed sound. And then, click. A door opened somewhere behind me. Slow. Careful. I didn't turn around immediately. Because somehow, I already knew I shouldn't. When I finally looked back, a door about 20 feet away stood slightly open. Inside was pure darkness. No light. Just a thin black gap. And I felt it instantly. Waiting for me to notice. I stepped backward. Another door opened farther down. Click. Then another. Click. Then another. Each opening just a little. Like something was checking rooms. Searching. Trying to find the correct one. Trying to find me. The lights flickered. Everything went completely dark. And in that half-second of darkness, I heard footsteps running straight toward me. Fast. Too fast. The lights snapped back on. Silence. Every door closed. The hallway empty. And suddenly, my real apartment door stood directly in front of me. Unit 312. Exactly where it should be. I didn't question it. I ran inside and locked all 3 locks. Then stayed awake until sunrise. The next morning, everything normal. 12 doors again. Elevator back. Hallway short. I convinced myself it was stress. sleep deprivation, a waking dream. That explanation worked. Until the second night. At 12:37 a.m., my lights flickered. Once. Twice. Then footsteps outside my door. Slow. Measured. Stopping directly on the other side. A shadow appeared beneath the door. Someone standing there. Not knocking. Just waiting. I checked the peephole. The hallway was empty. But the shadow remained. Blocking the light. Breathing softly. On my side of the door. Then I heard a whisper. So quiet I almost missed it. My turn. The voice sounded exactly like mine. The doorknob moved slightly. Not opening. Testing. Like someone learning how doors work. My phone had no signal. Wi-Fi gone. The clock blinked 12:40 a.m. Same time as before. Through the peephole, the hallway stretched again. Longer. Impossible. And at the far end stood someone. My height. My posture. My face. Watching my door. It started walking toward me. Slowly. Each step matching footsteps inside my apartment. Behind me. I turned. Nothing there. But the footsteps continued. Closer. Perfectly synchronized with the figure outside. Like two versions of the same movement. Inside. And outside. At the same time. A whisper brushed my ear. You stayed too long. The lights went out. Total darkness. And for 1 second, I felt someone standing exactly where I was supposed to be. Breathing. Waiting. Replacing. Morning came instantly. Everything normal again. Except one thing. Scratched into my wall beside the door were words I never wrote. Next time, you open. I don't leave my apartment after midnight anymore. But every night at 12:40, I hear footsteps pass my door. Counting. 1, 2, 3. All the way to 12. Then stopping. Waiting. Like something is checking if I'm ready. Last night, the footsteps didn't stop at 12. They stopped at 13. Right outside my door. And just before I started recording this, someone knocked. 3 slow knocks. Followed by my own voice saying, "Let me in." I don't think the hallway appears by accident. I think it's waiting for someone new to live in apartment 312. And I'm starting to think, I was never supposed to stay this long. They told us the infection ended years ago, that the world was safe again, that we could finally come out. They were wrong, because the first thing we found was already waiting for us. My name is Dr. Elias Mercer, and if you're hearing this, it means the bunker has already failed. We were sent to rebuild Sector 7, a dead coastal exclusion zone outside London. No life signs, no movement. No threat detected. Clean. Empty. Safe. That was the official report. That was the lie. We arrived on day 1. Military convoy. Scientific team. Full clearance. Everything looked abandoned. Like the world had simply forgotten this place existed. But abandoned places don't feel watched. On day 3, we found something that wasn't on any map. At first, it looked like collapsed ruins. Stone. Concrete. Steel. But something about it was wrong. Too intact to be broken. Too still to be dead. And then, it moved. Just slightly. Like it noticed us noticing it. We stopped the convoy immediately. All personnel on alert. But that's when it happened. The scanners went dead. Every system. Every frequency. Every signal. Gone. Like the air itself refused to be recorded. And then we heard it. Breathing. But not one breath. Hundreds. All at once. Inside the same space. Private Logan turned to me and whispered, "Sir, it's not ruins. It's forming. We should have left immediately. We didn't. Because curiosity always moves slower than fear, but it always costs more." That night, Logan went missing. No struggle. No alarms. No warning. Just his boots, placed neatly at the entrance of the structure, facing inward, like something had walked out of him, instead of him walking in. That's when we named it the Bone Temple. And that was the last time anyone made a normal decision. By day 5, everything had changed. The structure wasn't stable anymore. It shifted, but only when you weren't looking directly at it. Hallways appeared behind us. Doors disappeared in front of us. Space itself was rearranging to keep us inside. And then we noticed something worse. It was learning. Every step we took, it mirrored. Every movement, it adapted, like it was syncing with us, learning us. Then the carvings began to appear, but they weren't carved. They were grown, bone forming into language, organic, alive. And the language had names, our names, dead colleagues, past missions, classified deaths that were never supposed to exist outside records. Then Dr. Hand stopped walking. He was staring at one wall, trembling, and he whispered, "It's my daughter." The name was written there, fresh, still warm. That's when the temple changed the exit, not blocked it, erased it, like escape was never a concept it allowed. And then we saw them, figures inside the corridors, standing still, too still, like they had been waiting for us to finish becoming them. One of them turned, and I saw my face. Exact. Identical. But it smiled before I did. The moment I understood. We weren't being hunted. We were being recorded. Now I'm alone, I think. Or maybe isolation is just another layer of the structure, because I can hear voices outside my chamber now, repeating my own words, but slightly wrong, like a recording being corrupted. Every time it loops. Don't look at the bone when it remembers you. I didn't say that. At least, I don't think I did. Now I understand the truth. The infection didn't end. It evolved into memory. And memory became architecture. The Bone Temple isn't a place. It's a recording system. And we are what it records. If you are hearing this message, do not search Sector 7. Do not look for ruins. Do not try to understand it, because it understands first. I can hear it rewriting my voice now. Even this sentence is changing as I speak it. If you ever hear your own voice, coming from somewhere you've never been, do not answer, because it means you've already been written inside the Bone Temple. If you made it this far, you're not just a viewer anymore. You're part of the recording. Subscribe for more true-style horror stories, found footage nightmares, and psychological thriller narrations. And comment, would you enter Sector 7? You're listening Midnight Tale Stories. Some places feel peaceful during the day. The first time I heard the motor, I barely noticed it. But when it returned at 2:03 in the morning, I knew something wasn't right. The lake split into narrow channels filled with hidden rocks and shallow ridges. Uncle Ray knew every turn. Every summer I stayed there for a week, no phone signal. At night, the silence felt enormous. August evening. I was fishing alone in a narrow cove about 2 miles from the cabin. One person inside. Not fishing, just watching. They didn't respond. We didn't think much of it. Until that night. The room was completely dark. An engine, no lights, the motor shut off, leaving a silence that felt alive. Both knowing someone was outside watching the cabin. Minutes passed. Then the engine started again and drifted away. The next morning we checked the cove. Fish covered the shoreline. Cleaned and placed in a straight line. Ray stared longer than I'd ever seen. We are leaving today during the drive home. His boat was found running, but he was never seen again. He claimed someone circled his property at night, always without lights. Later, 2 more people disappeared from that same area. People gone waiting for someone who leave. My father took me catfishing Texas. Same spot every year. Same lantern glowing against the dark water. Until one night when all of it stopped. Around 11, my rod bent violently downward. Stories shared exactly as they were experienced. And completely different once the sun disappears. Boats passed our cabin all the time. Moving slowly across the lake without a single light. My uncle owned a small cabin deep in northern Minnesota, far from tourist areas unless you knew the water well. You wouldn't last long out there. He'd spent decades fishing those channels long before GPS mattered. No nearby houses, just forest and water. As I packed up, I noticed a flat-bottom boat sitting motionless near the entrance. Engine lifted from the water. Not moving, I raised a hand later. Ray said lost tourists wandered into the channels every year. Something woke me suddenly. Then I felt it, a low vibration through the air. Idling close to shore, I looked outside but saw only black water. I woke Ray. We listened together. He grabbed his shotgun and we sat quietly, staring toward the lake. Maybe half an hour we didn't sleep. Nothing unusual, until we passed a rocky island. Dozens of them, all facing toward our cabin. Then he said quietly, no discussion. He told me years earlier a man living alone on the lake had disappeared. Before vanishing, Ray sold the cabin that winter. Boats recovered. Sometimes I wonder if that silent boat still moves through those channels. Doesn't know the water well enough to. Story 2, the riverbank. Every summer along a remote river in East, same folding chairs. The river had its own nighttime rhythm. Frogs, insects, splashing fish. I was 16. Around 11, my rod bent violently downward. Whatever was on the line didn't run. It just pulled steadily toward the bottom. No struggle. Just wait. Then the line snapped. Dad said it was probably a submerged log, but he didn't sound convinced. An hour later, every sound vanished. The lantern light felt smaller, surrounded by heavy darkness. Then came a thick, rotten smell drifting off the water. The surface bulged 30 feet away, like something massive rose beneath it before sinking again. Dad stood immediately. Reel in. When he checked the trot line, every hook was pulled tight underwater. All bait gone. None triggered. Whatever took it had avoided every hook. Dad cut the line loose. We packed fast. Halfway up the trail, something dragged along the muddy bank behind us. Slow. Wet. Heavy. No footsteps. Then a violent splash. We never returned at night. Years later, I found a note in Dad's tackle box written long before he brought me there. Do not go back. He had known long before I did. Story 3, Under the Ice. Ice fishing is supposed to be peaceful. That's why I went alone. Lake Winnebago. January 2023. A small wooden shanty, heater humming, and miles of frozen silence. Around 8, my line went tight, too heavy for a fish. I pulled up a waterlogged work boot. Inside was a sealed plastic bag. And inside the bag, a photograph. My shanty, taken at night. from only a few meters away, dated 1 week earlier. Someone had stood outside while I was inside, watching. Then I heard it across the frozen lake. An ice auger drilling. Far away at first. Then closer. Another hole. Closer again. I left immediately, walking calmly to my truck while drilling continued behind me. Police later found a second fresh hole near mine. No footprints, only long scratches across the ice connecting the two. Other fishermen found similar things that winter. Photos, objects, notes. One man moved away and never returned. I stopped ice fishing after that, because sometimes the danger on the water isn't in the water at all. If these stories stayed with you tonight, stay aware when you're alone after dark. Some places don't like being watched, and sometimes they watch back.